Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am joined here today by singer-songwriter, new guy on the scene here, Drew Pulliam. Drew, it's an awesome time to have you. I appreciate you doing the show with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we've kind of been in communication in terms of some new music that's coming out. We have a lot of exciting stuff. It looks like on your front. Obviously, the big thing is Back in My Mind, which is due out in September. The new record, which you can already, see the new single that's out, Back in My Mind. I know you have a new single coming out later this month, but I just want you to tell me a little bit about specifically Back in My Mind, the song. It's a cool video. It's on YouTube. Everybody can go and check it out. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration of that. Tell me, did you draw any influences when bringing that song up? Just want to know a little bit about your process with that.
Let's see. When I wrote that song, I think I was really into Fleetwood Mac at the time. I feel like a lot of singer-songwriters kind of go through a Fleetwood Mac phase. And during that time, I was in high school. I was dating this girl that I dated all throughout high school, and the relationship was kind of coming to an end, because high school was ending and we were going to go off separate colleges. And I guess that's kind of what the song is about. In a way, it's kind of like a breakup song. It kind of tackles the lonelier aspects of a breakup, as far as like inspiration for writing it and the lyrics. And I kind of came up with the guitar part one night when I was hanging out with friends. I've always kind of got the guitar in my hands. I'm sure it drives my friends crazy. They're like, Drew, put the guitar down.
Yeah.
But I kind of just started messing around with that. And then came up with the chords. And then me and Carrie just sat down one time. Carrie's my sister that I write a lot with. And the words just kind of fell out of us all the way up to the bridge. And then I think I was in Mississippi when I finished the bridge at like a songwriter summer camp. Kind of just sat down at the piano and said, I need to finish this. But yeah, that's the story and inspiration of sort of writing it and what it's about.
With again. Yeah. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Oh yeah.
All right, let me see here. Let's just take it solo here. All right, I'm still here. So the good people can see you and do your thing. With the Fleetwood Mac kind of inspiration, I know a lot of your music draws upon lyrics and different references to songwriters of days past. I know even before reading anything about you, when I was just listening to the music from the new record, hearing the references to John Lennon with the kaleidoscope eyes, referencing Christopherson with Me and Bobby McGee. Is that stuff that just comes out of you naturally, or are you looking to make these references to your heroes, to your influences?
A lot of it just kind of comes naturally, I think. Like I'm not really ever conscious of like, oh, I want to reference this artist, reference this. It's really just kind of flows. A lot of my lyrics, I try to put a lot of thought into my lyrics, but every now and then it'll just kind of fall out in the right way. The whole kaleidoscope one with like from Lucy, I think is the song you're referencing. Mm-hmm. That's the one song on the album that I didn't write. Some friends back in Jonesboro, there's this duo called the Seven Hollows, but they wrote that song, and when I was younger, kind of growing up in my hometown, I would go out and watch them play, and I'd always request that song. And eventually, when I was making this album, I was like, are you guys gonna do anything with that? And they're like, probably not. And I was like, you mind if I record it? And that'll be on the album. But as far as like other stuff that I've sort of referenced throughout the album, I don't really, it kind of just comes out, it's never something that I'm like, oh, I want to reference this artist, especially sound too. Sound just kind of happens for me.
Right.
for better or for worse.
Right. It's interesting because, again, like, reading up on you and listening to, some samples from the record, hearing, what your influences are, or what you're compared to. I know, because I'm somebody, I play guitar, I play out from time to time, and it's always that weird thing, like, you don't want to be compared to other people, but at the same time, you're also like, you're in the industry, people are gonna, it's like, oh, you're sounding like this, you're playing an acoustic guitar,
Right.
you should be playing with, the indie folk crowd, like, you're like, well, yeah, that's true, but I like hip hop, I like country music, whatever it is. How do you feel, again, because you're somebody that's, getting your feet wet, getting really established now with the new music? Is that something that you are okay with, that comparison, or are you already thinking like, I kind of want to be, my own guy here?
Yeah, the comparisons never really bothered me, just because I like making music. It's just what I love to do, and I'm always gonna love music. I'm always gonna make music, even if it like gets me nowhere. And I'm working a 9 to 5 when I'm 40. I'll still be playing and writing as much as I can, just because I feel like that's what I'm kind of called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Once I have made it and I'm done with it, once I put it out there, it's really, I try to think of it as not much of my business what other people like think of me, or like who they compare me to. That's never really bothered me. Then again, I'm still new at this, so one day it could start to bother me. But for now, I like the comparisons always interest me, because they're always never what I expect. I mean, like, I got compared to Meatloaf the other day. If you know who Meatloaf is.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I never in a million years would have thought that. But I mean, hey, man.
Wow.
I guess what you hear is what you hear. But yeah, it's never really bothered me.
Yeah.
It kind of intrigues me in a way, honestly.
I wouldn't like. Were you being compared to Meatloaf because of your like falsetto singing during "Back of My Mind," or like, because that sounds like the closest thing, maybe, but like I don't hear Meatloaf in that. But
I probably should have asked.
Yeah,
but I really don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I grew up in the theater, like, and so maybe, like, I guess sometimes I can have like a theatrical aspect whenever I perform.
Right.
I'm not like really trying to be. I think that just a lot of me growing up. Sorry, there's an ant on my table.
That's all right.
Me growing up in theater, that just kind of comes out naturally sometimes. Yeah, but yeah, he straight up was like, "Man, you remind me a lot of Meatloaf," and I was like, "All right, man. I mean, hell, I do like Meatloaf. I love Meatloaf. He's cool."
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, because I know. I think it was songwriter Tom Paxton. I don't know if you know him. Older guy in kind of the songwriter scene, came up in the 70s. I think it was him. He mentioned, when he was coming up as a songwriter, he had his influences, and he said, if you want to be a songwriter, copy the people that you love. He's like, if you love, Bob Dylan, try to write a Bob Dylan song. If you like, whoever, try to write a song like them, and just keep doing that, and eventually you'll come into your own as somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that it can kind of fit into those influences, because I know, just again reading up, CAAMP came up for you, Fleet Foxes, Avett Brothers, things like that. Are those artists that you when you were starting to write songs, maybe as a teenager, whenever you started writing, or those guys that you tried to copy? Were you already at that age doing something, trying to be yourself with your songwriting? Was there any inspiration from those guys?
I don't know if I've ever like really tried to copy a songwriter. Maybe like recently, just because like I've moved to Nashville and I've like want to up my game, and so I'm kind of like trying to improve my writing and kind of test my limits. Like, let's see if I can write a song like this or write a song like this. But as far as like this album, I wasn't really trying to copy anybody. And as far as like influences, it's weird because like I'll go through a phase where I'll find an artist that I really love, like CAAMP, for example, and I'll listen to them a bunch, and I'll cover their songs at gigs and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I'll just fall in love with the artist and like the way they write and the way they produce. And it's not until like months later when I've stopped listening to them and I'm already onto a different artist that those influences start to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a frustrating thing because like while I'm into them, I won't necessarily try to copy them, but I'm like, man, I kind of want to like, I kind of want to be like them. They're the cool kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just can't seem to do it until like later on, like really further down the road, whenever I'm into a completely different artist. I'm like, this is just now happening. I'm just now like seeing these influences in my writing. It's kind of funny how that works.
It is, and those are all artists that I love. I've seen CAAMP, I've seen Avid Brothers. Some of the other ones that are mentioned, and again, hearing the songs from the record, leading up to this, I can definitely hear both sides of it. Of like, oh, there's traces of this, but it's also not them, which is what you want, because otherwise, you're in a cover band and nobody wants to, if they're trying to break out on their own. With that being said, your next single, which will be coming out later this month, reminded me a lot of it. Sounded like the Lumineers to me, with the piano playing, because your piano playing is it's very soft, like Jeremiah Freight's from the Lumineers. Is that something that you were cognitive of at all?
I did go through a Lumineers phase. I love Lumineers. I really love their like first 2 or 3 albums.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to them much recently, but I definitely went through a big Lumineers phase. I love the way they write. Their sound on their first record, I think, is so creative. They have this room sound throughout the album that is, it's just very out there, especially for like a folk, for like kind of folk Americana artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love their lyrics. I did go through a CAAMP phase, and now that you mention it, I can kind of see the Lumineers influence.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense.
Well, again, with that, it seems to be no secret that your favorite writer is Leonard Cohen.
Oh yeah, I do love Leonard Cohen.
Who, he's one of those guys, because for me, my guy is Bob Dylan. I mean, I'm a major Bob Dylan guy.
Oh, Bob Dylan's great.
He's
seen the movie.
I have seen it. I saw it twice in theaters, once
here
at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like it? What did you think of it?
I was a big fan. It was funny because I had a lot of friends and my fiance were all like, well, what's true? When you tell me what's true, what's not true, what's together. I was like the resource for people to be like, oh, what was legit,
You were the Chat GPT on Ray LaMontagne.
I was, yes, I was.
That's funny.
But no, I liked it a lot. But with the Cohen thing, and Dylan's in the same camp, like the people that love those guys love them, and then everybody else is kind of indifferent or just absolutely can't stand them.
They kind of have a cult following in that way.
It's a cult following. They weren't known as necessarily hit makers. What is it about Cohen for you? Because you're younger than I am, I'm assuming. What is it about Cohen that kind of draws you to like that artistic place?
That's a good question. When I first got into Cohen, it actually wasn't through Leonard Cohen. It was through Jeff Buckley's cover of Hallelujah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Love Jeff Buckley. And then I got into it and was like, oh wow, he didn't write this. And traced it back to Cohen. And then I got into like a lot of that like Suzanne. Man, the writing on that song and the lyrics is just so beautiful. It's such a visual song, and he doesn't waste any words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every line has really 2 or 3 meanings. And then I got into his poetry books. As far as I'm a big Cohen fan, as far as like lyrics, more than anything, more than like melodies or chords or stuff like that. But I got into his poetry books. I read like the Book of Longing and like Let Us Compare Mythologies. I was that weird kid in high school and like algebra, like kind of sitting in the back reading a poetry book, and people were probably like, what is this kid doing?
Right.
And I see a lot of his influences, like his influence on me, come out in my lyrics more than anything, I'd say.
Right. Well, I would probably say another thing for you, and again, you can, see it, in the music that you put out, especially, a song, Samson's song, with a lot of the biblical imagery and, that kind of thing. Is that also something that is a very, is that something that's, an inspiring thing for you, that kind of, again, like that biblical imagery?
Yeah, that is definitely Cohen influence. Now that you say, it's funny, you actually brought that to my attention. I never really noticed that, but I definitely see some Leonard Cohen there. That is so my mom like ran this community theater in my hometown, and we didn't have a babysitter, so a lot of the times I was just kind of up there hanging out at the theater with her, and she was the director. And so I grew up watching her like tell these stories on the stage. And I think that's where I first fell in love with storytelling. And when I was 12 or 13, there was a grand piano in the lobby of the theater that I would bang on as a kid. I'm sure I drove the employees there nuts, playing it on all the time.
Yeah.
And I started kind of writing stories and telling stories of my own. And Samson's song has always been, or Samson Delilah has always been a story that has just intrigued me, because I think there's a lot of, there can be a lot of truth in it. And in many ways, it's kind of like the epitome of love in some ways. And that was a story that I kind of told kind of during that influence of Leonard Cohen when that was coming out of me. And also watching my mom direct and tell stories in those ways on the stage, I think is where that one kind of came from.
Yeah. No, and again, drawing from those familial places, those, kind of taking what's around you and working with that is a huge thing.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sure, because it's always interesting to me as, the number of artists that I follow, you always seem to get the record or the song that's, it's just like the same, like kind of mundane life on the road song. Like, here I am on the bus. This is what I'm seeing from the bus. I miss my family. You have so many artists that do that, especially like mid-career artists of like, there's so much, happening in my world, but I'm still kind of confined, I'm confiding into just like the small space, whether it's a tour bus, whether it's a hotel room, whatever it is. And like, you have to draw on that as the inspiration, because you're not anywhere else. You don't have time.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Again, just taking that from an early age of seeing, what your mom was working on and being in that environment as a kid. Yeah. So looking at your schedule, looking at, everything, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of recording this, it's June 9th. You have a show tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just it's a writer's round over in Franklin, Tennessee. I'm excited about it. If anybody's in the area, well, this won't come out in time. Well, if anybody's in the area, I'm probably playing again soon somewhere. Sorry you missed this one.
Yeah, it was a good one. It blew people out of the water.
Yeah, man.
But with that, you do have dates right now, kind of going into July, and then you're probably going to be really busy with promoting the record. Tell me what your kind of summer is going to be looking like after these few dates that you have coming up.
Hopefully, lots of playing.
Yeah.
Lots of playing, lots of writing. I'm kind of in the works of recording the next EP, which I'm doing a lot of writing, so it's quickly turning into another album.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, lots of playing, definitely lots of promoting this project. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah. No, and I've really liked what I've heard. Again, I've just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed kind of, listening to just your tunes. I mean, it's been really kind of a neat experience. And I know,
Appreciate it.
oh, absolutely. One of the things I did want to ask you, you had an EP out in 2023, 16 going on 60, which, obviously 2 years have passed. And
wow, that's only 2 years. That feels like forever ago.
That's where I was leading into, like, what has changed? I mean, I know you've moved to Nashville, and are kind of, home base there, coming from Arkansas. What all in your life, like what seems to be the forward trajectory here after that EP versus now, and now you're already saying you're working on more material?
Yeah, a lot of it is, I feel like I started writing and releasing so young. A lot of the battle with the first EP and then the second EP and even this album has just been kind of finding myself as an artist and finding my sound, because you go through so many different like phases, I feel like, as a musician, before you like really settle into who you are. And honestly, even then you still change. I mean, Bob Dylan, when he went electric,
Yeah.
And like during that time, whenever I wrote all those songs on the first 2 EPs, I was like big into like Billy Joel and Elton John. And while I love them, I don't listen to them much. I'm into a really different kind of music now, and you can kind of see it in the way my music comes out. Like this whole album's gonna sound very different from that first EP. And honestly, the next album after this one is probably going to sound very different than the one I'm about to put out. Stuff just kind of progresses and changes as I do things, and kind of settling into finding my sound as an artist. And not even like finding my sound as an artist. It's really just about getting better. I'm 20, so I'm still like kind of figuring stuff out and figuring out how to do things. And so I've kind of been able to see a progression in my writing throughout the years.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to the future because of that,
Well, I can say, everybody that's following you and is supporting you, I'm sure they're looking forward to it as well, to see that, growth as an artist, because, every artist goes through it, no matter what age they are, whether they start in their 50s or whether they start, as a kid.
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah, it's gotta be a cool feeling. And then, to look back on it, over the years from now, even 5-10 years now, looking back on those first EPs and, saying like, oh, I could have done this differently. I could have done that differently. Like anybody with like that artistic mind, looks back and it's like, oh, there's something here, there's something there that I could adjust, or like, oh, I would have done.
Yeah. And it's really like, I even feel that way about the album I'm about to put out. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, man, I think I'd change that. It's funny, as an artist, it's never the song's never finished. It's just what you end up getting done by the deadline,
Right.
Right. But that's the beauty, is it constantly grows and changes.
Well, it does. And again, I mean, you can hear it just by going back to, your older stuff, which is great, but also listen to the new stuff. It's like, okay, he's gotten older. He's working, he's honing on his craft, and he's playing more gigs. And even that, just playing gigs, but just strengthens the craft. But I encourage everybody watching to check out Drew Pulliam. Back of My Mind is going to be the new album out September the 12th, later this year. Again, you're on all the socials, you're on YouTube, so go follow him, go support him, say hello at the gigs, go on to his website, see him play, see updates on future shows. into the summer and going into the fall as he's promoting the new album. But Drew, I really appreciate you doing this. It was a great conversation, and good luck to you on the tour. Good luck to you on the record and for all the future work that you have coming out.
Oh man, thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. This is so cool. I think it's such a cool experience.
Absolutely.
Awesome meeting you and talking to you.
Anytime, man. All right, everybody, go check out Drew. All of his links will be in the description below, and we will talk to you later. Bye.